So, background. This is a video series that we started a couple years ago. Some of them have been good, some of them have been not as good. It's basically, they're research videos. So we get a list of faculty members that the president's interested in featuring, and we kind of look into each of their story. And the video ends up being played as part of our president's presentation to the Board of Regents that governs the state university. So basically we want to say, look at the great work that's happening at Iowa State, and show it in a way that's kind of engaging, that they really want to watch. Here's the team. So it's a very, very small team. We have a couple extra people that shoot with us, but we have Jed, who works for Extension. He's the creative director, our Iowa State Extension. And then Brian Meyer, he's like the president's office connection, and then me. And I'm kind of the director. I'm going to play the video now. Get off here. So some of you might have seen this. I've entered it far and wide. I'm honestly kind of tired of talking about it. But after this week, hopefully we'll be done. So let's see if we have volume here. Let me turn that up. There we go. Thank you. All right. We'll let them get in here so they can see the video.
So my son James is also a plant scientist, and he was conducting an experiment. When it was over, he forgot about the plants. And they spent a month in the greenhouse. Nobody took care of them, nobody watered them, and everything was dead, except one plant. In the coming years, the world and agriculture in particular are going to face some enormous challenges. Rainfall is becoming more variable, the aquifers are drying up, the world is running out of water, especially water for agriculture. Proso millet is the most water efficient grain we have on the planet. It will produce, for a given amount of grain, it uses half as much water as any other crop.
What is proso millet used for?
It looks a little bit like rice, a panicle, lots of small seeds. It's used for direct human consumption in many places in Asia, but it's a perfect drop-in substitute for corn in animal feed as well as ethanol production. So if we want to adapt corn for the future world with less water, we could make it more water efficient. Or we could take an existing water efficient crop and increase its yield. There are a lot of people working on the first thing. We decided to work on the second.
How do you think it fits into the rotation in Iowa?
Farmers in Iowa are hungry for third crop. They need another crop to add to a rotation. Third crop would give us more diversity, greater stability, and it would be better for the soil. The exciting thing about proso millet, there are many exciting things. Some of them are, it uses less water. It uses less nitrogen in Iowa. It is resilient. The even bigger thing is it contributes to sustainability of food supply. As you know, I've spent my whole professional career doing fundamental research on corn, but here was an opportunity to make a much more direct contribution to food security and economic development in both Iowa and then food security around the world.
A little background I should have given is in Iowa there are two major crops, corn and soybeans, that basically grow for the whole summer and are harvested in the fall. So this was an opportunity to add a third crop. That it's kind of something that people in Iowa and the Midwest have been talking about for decades. So that's kind of the substance of that. Let me get back to my slide here. past it. Okay, so I'm going through just pre-production, production, post-production, how we handled each of those steps. We met with the faculty member that you saw in the video in a farm building. It's kind of his space on a farm on campus where he conducts his research, and he pitched to us several projects. So when we get the names, it's just like this person, we want to feature this person in their work. We don't have specifics on exactly what they're doing, so we kind of have to dig into it ourselves. He presented several projects he was working on. We really have focused with this series on trying to tell one story and not, most of these faculty members have like 3 projects going that are all cool, and they want to talk about all of them really bad. And the people representing who we're making the video for, like the president's office, they want to get as much information in there as they can, obviously, about the great stuff this person's doing. But we really focused on telling one story and trying to simplify it as much as possible. So he told us about this story with his son, who's also a professor now, about discovering the millet, and that kind of resonated with us. So we visited the field, his millet field. It's north of our town, and we kind of put together a rough cut. So I recorded the whole conversation between us just standing around in the field talking with him about what millet was and kind of what the story was. And I recorded that so that I could put together maybe a rough cut of what the story would look like in the end. It was a free pass at getting a rough edit done, and it was just a free practice try, basically. So I just recorded that, slapped a mic on him, recorded it, didn't cost me anything, and I was able to cut together something that kind of had the same tone and the same urgency that the final video had. And I'm going to do that on every video going forward, just because it was a free practice try. Why not? So I'm going to play that for you. We can film the entirety and then rough cut it, and it really did guide the rest of the piece. Let me show you this video. I'll fast forward parts of it. It's a little bit longer. I even put some music in to show the rest of the team kind of the tone that we were going for, to give us some guidance.
The reality is, the world is going to face agriculture is going to face some really significant challenges in the coming decades. Our agricultural systems were developed during a period of very stable weather patterns, very predictable. And as we're seeing this year, it's not always going to be like that.
Some notes from me that I thought we could get him to say in the real interview. Fake quote that I thought he could say when we actually filmed it.
Doing an experiment where he was growing a whole series of crops, and he grew them up to a young stage, seedling stage. He got what he needed. He abandoned the plants. They sat in the greenhouse. Nobody watered them. And he went out to look at the plants, and everything had died. Everything had died except for the prosomelon. And it, in little tiny pots, it had gone through its complete life cycle with no additional water and produced seed. With the idea that what we could do is take a crop like this that is soybeans and that. What's that whisper?
Premiumbeat.com. You're going to be hearing that in your dreams. But that's how rough this is. So just slap a song on it. It doesn't matter. It's just giving me a little bit of tone.
Is this your colleague doing the interview?
Yeah, this is one of the team members that I showed you before. So he represents the president's office. He was just leading the discussion. I'm just, recording it.
What's going to maybe attract?
So we keep going. He kind of gets to the stakes here. I switch the song.
Water plus fertilizer, and it's just different than the existing mix on it. I think it has the potential to help buffer the risks and the challenges that are coming. And this is another layer of what Iowa State is doing to serve the state and the world. It is helping successful faculty spin off activities like this that will contribute to improved profitability for farmers and a better environment for the citizens of Iowa.
So there you go. Fast, easy, gave me a feel for the story. So after this, I was able to go into the real conversation with the president with the route the story was going to take. And I didn't have to waste time on going off on these random tangents about stuff that wasn't going to be included in the final cut. I could kind of lean on what I knew already and really focus on the stuff that I knew would end up in the video.
Did you use any of the audio or anything from that initial trip of the final one?
No.
Or just re-record everything?
No, it was all a different recording, yeah. Yeah, I thought about doing that, but I didn't end up needing to because I could have him restate kind of the things I knew I needed. So, and I had him record a couple other things in the field at a separate time, but nothing from that original. No.
I have one question.
Yeah.
How did you sell the idea to them that, hey, we're going to probably film this twice? Because I feel like for some people, like having to show up
Sure.
2 times is way too much.
Um,
So asking them to show up 1 time is sometimes a fucking ass.
Well, we didn't know much. I mean, we had met with him once, and we wanted to, for the faculty, on the faculty member side, we had only met with him once at this other building. So we didn't know what this stuff looked like. We'd never been, the field was nearby. We'd never seen it. He offered to show it to us. I don't think it's a ridiculous ask to have a meeting with the subject of the video on site, but.
But you didn't frame it as, oh, we're doing this big shoot. You just-
No, we didn't even tell him we were filming. I mean, we got there with, I was just hand holding the camera. It was not, we slapped the mic on him, as you can see. We didn't hide it or anything. So it's a pre-production piece that saves you a lot of time saves everyone time in the long run, makes a better end product.
Yeah, especially if you're doing it with the president, that's probably a higher
Yeah,
stake.
yeah, definitely. Okay. So filming the conversation, you got a kind of bad frame from video photo there of us out in the field. We filmed the conversation with the president in about an hour and a half and filmed the B-roll right after that, some of the B-roll of the 2 of them in the fields, handheld camera and drone, in about 30 minutes. So we had her there 2 hours max. We filmed the 2-shot open that you see in that GIF. We knew we wanted to open. That was another thing about doing the rough draft is I knew the line, I like to open with kind of the challenge or what they're trying to solve. And we knew we wanted to open that on a 2-shot to kind of set the location. So we were able to just shoot that line with both of them in the frame. And then we moved on to the close-ups. We didn't shoot a 2-shot for the whole rest of the video. So we were able to even choose, how we were going to shoot certain parts of the conversation.
Did you give your president questions to ask him, or did she just watch the initial video and come up with her own?
I'm not sure she saw the initial video. We had a list. Yeah, we basically had a list that we made based off that first conversation.
Did
Yeah.
you have a second shooter with you?
Yeah, we had a close up on each subject, and then we had somebody doing audio, and we had I think a couple other people on set. So it was pretty small, but okay. This is the part I like to talk about. We spent about 7 hours, as you can see here, shooting B-roll for the video. We shot golden hour, subjects from all sides, slow motion, moving camera, GoPro, drone, everything at our disposal. Any way that we can see the subjects differently, we tried to use that. Didn't end up using any of the GoPro stuff in the final cut, but we had it. So the key stat that I'm most excited about this piece, and I have it on my notes, but I don't have it up there, is only 18 seconds of the video, or just under 12% of the total runtime of the video, you're seeing talking heads on camera. I've made a million videos where it's 75% talking heads. And I think higher ed in general, we get pushed to that a lot. We have a lot of information to get in there and sometimes not a lot to show. But we really committed ourselves to avoiding the just boring talking heads on camera for long periods of time. So 18 total seconds in the video, just under 12% of the runtime is you're seeing talking heads. Yeah?
So the person asking the question, that's your president?
Yes, correct, sorry.
If it wasn't your president, do you think you'd have a different approach to having those questions on camera? Because it's almost an opportunity to have another presence on camera. Of course, your president, you want to see them in the video.
Yeah.
Do you think if it wasn't your president, you might have omitted that part?
I think that I think I probably would have gone more toward the rough draft approach where it's one voice. But you want presidents to have FaceTime, and that's kind of that was the pitch of the whole series. So yeah, I probably would have gone more the route of that rough draft. Yeah.
7 hours is multiple team members shooting B-roll. Like that's your time at the location with a couple people.
The most we had was 2 cameras rolling at a time. Okay. The majority of the stuff was shot by me. So we didn't have 3 people rolling for 7 hours. It was mostly 1 person rolling for that time. But that's roughly the amount of time I was out there. And that's we had a drone up and we had all kinds of stuff going. So yeah, just the higher ed stuff, we get steered into long, extra long, not much B-roll, and I don't think it's as effective personally. Here's the open. There's probably a more elegant way to do this, but we were illustrating this story that you heard, and if you didn't hear it, it was this faculty member's son, who's also a professor, forgot about these plants that he had in a greenhouse. He was doing some tests on them to see if they were drought tolerant, and he came back to clean it up, and they were all dead because it'd been weeks, but there was one that had lived with no water. And it was kind of an aha moment, and that's kind of what we built the whole thing around by shooting this way and starting with this story. So this involved, working with this greenhouse manager to grow all these plants and then kill them, and grow a few that were good. And she had whole options for me. We could use this one, but she had them all laid out in this greenhouse, and I could just ride my bike by and check on how they were doing until they were ready to film. So this was just us with this upside down rhino slider. Turned out nice. Like I said, there's probably a more elegant way to do it, but this is all we had at the time. Post-production, like I've mentioned, it wasn't exactly like plug and play, but it was dropping things in where I knew they'd go, and I knew when we shot it that we had what we needed, so it was pretty simple. Here's what I've mentioned earlier, but what I think made this successful, and I'm interested to hear you guys' opinions, but we advocated for visuals from the beginning. That's something that we're focused on all the time now, is we don't start a project, and this goes for photo too, we're not going to start something where there's no viable visual options for us. We really advocate for projects that have something to show, or at least have some flexibility that we can make it ourselves, fake it if we need to. Dramatic lighting, staging, we're open to all that stuff because we're just trying to make the video a visual experience that people want to watch. We found something to build around, which I talked about was that story. We heard that, and that was we can build around that story of discovering this plant that survived without being watered. And a lot of things don't really sound unique to us. We've made some progress in this experiment. It's got some exciting possibilities, but that story really stuck with us. So it gave us something to kind of build the whole story, the rest of the story around. Told one story I talked about earlier. He's doing a lot of work, but we focused on this one thing. Millet has this crop that he's talking about has 1 million positive things about it. All kinds of stuff. Ethanol, gasoline. We avoided talking about that stuff because you go in 5 different directions, and then all of a sudden you have a 5-minute piece. And then the compelling B-roll is a top priority. Wasn't about filming the conversation. For us, we wanted it to look nice. We needed to get our good audio, but it was about that B-roll. So we put a lot of thought into that. We scheduled. We went out, I think, 2 separate times for B-roll, but we really wanted to get harvest, so we made sure to be in contact with them about when the harvest was going to happen, so that we could get out for that. And we made that happen. And they worked with us. Obviously, they were very flexible, but from the beginning, letting them know your expectations and kind of, we're going to need to shoot a lot of stuff for this, and you'll know if they're receptive or not right off the bat. That's the end of my presentation, but I'm hoping there's some questions so we can fill up the rest of this time.
So what made this successful, part of that is heavily from your view, right, as a videographer, it's a different project, as far as data, analytics, playback, people watching it. Did you track any of that? Did you see any implications that way?
So our arrangement is a little weird because I work for the College of Engineering, and we have this kind of ad hoc team that works on this. That's those 3 people that I showed. So I don't handle any of the distribution for this. I just turn it over to them at the end. I did watch it play on the live stream of the Regents meeting, and people were smiling. Is that enough for you? But no, we don't have any. I don't have any concrete analytics in my possession of how it was successful.
And then
Yeah.
Is it going out on social in a different format than a closed audience for Regents?
It did go out on social. Yes.
Did you create a vertical version?
Did not create a vertical version. No.
Do you get asked to do that very often with these things, or no?
To create a vertical version? No.
I do sometimes.
How much did the subject influence the B-roll that you saw? Because oftentimes we'll have subjects who are like, oh, it'd be great if you got this or this, you know.
The subject gave us lots of good options. You know, they were describing to us early on how beautiful the millet is around harvest time, this shot and the color that it turns. But they were very open to, you know, we say at the beginning, we want to hear all the options. What can we shoot? This guy gave us some other millet field locations. Like he sent us like GPS coordinates of some there's a few in Iowa, and there's some that are growing a few hours away from us that we could go to if we wanted. So he gave us lots of options from the beginning, and we kind of ran with it from there.
I'm kind of curious about the intended audience and what the desired outcome was.
Sure, you might have missed that part. I talked about that a little bit at the beginning, but our Board of Regents, who governs all the state universities in Iowa, this is going to them. That was the main priority for this, is their Board of Regents meeting that was at Iowa State, to play this for them about Iowa State's impactful research.
So it was a limited audience then?
Yes.
Like who is your client technically? Like who asked for the video to be made?
The president's office kind of got this project rolling. We've done a few in this video series, but this is the strongest one by far.
So that means a lot to me, because that's kind of the situation I'm in where like our president's office is asking me to put like really high production value and effort into things that have really limited audiences. So like and maybe if that's what your job is, that's fine, but like it's interfering with my intended purpose on campus. Like it's really interfering with my ability to make marketing pieces, because what they're asking me to do is not seen by very many people.
I understand that. I think that we could probably all, I mean, I'll speak from my perspective. I can always put more time into the pre-production process, and that includes conversations and negotiations and making sure that the person requesting what they're requesting is aware of the scope of what we're going to be releasing. And, you know, we could put a lot of work into it, but not a lot of people are going to see it. But I just think more time on the front end, figuring out your audience and planning your B-roll, talking to the people involved, the people who are requesting it, about what it's going to take to get it done is important. And I think that might be part of the process. But I mean, you know, you don't really have a lot to say to that person in charge. But if you can show them that maybe the amount of work that's going to need to go into it isn't going to equal the reward you guys will get, that might be a starting place. I don't know.
Did you have to fight for the Interstellar reference you got in there, or was that kind of one of the things that you like really wanted from the beginning that you got to keep in there?
Which Interstellar reference?
Well, that part where you're kind of flying over the field, it's got the...
Oh yeah, like the fake FPV.
I was like, oh shit, Interstellar, nice.
Yeah, I actually was not influenced by Interstellar because I didn't see it until like a few months ago. So, but I see what you're talking about. And actually, one of the other people on the team did reference that in Interstellar when we were talking about that. I think the slow movements like over the crops really remind me of that. Even not even the fast ones, but the slow ones too. But no, that was just we wanted to hit them with some energy, you know, after kind of lulling them to sleep at the beginning. Yeah.
What was your timeline like, specifically on your pre-production? Like, how much time did you spend from the time you got the request from the president's office till you hit the millet fields?
These projects that we work on, as you know, it's kind of a weird committee of people. So we work on a very slow timeline. We're just now making the next one. Like, we're filming it when we get back. There's no rush on these. So I can't remember. I think that we met in July. We met in late July when we met him the first time, and then we basically wrapped up filming, you know, after harvest. So that would have been like late October, I think, when we were doing that harvest filming, and then it finished shortly after that. Yeah.
How many projects of this kind of level do you do, like, in the course of 1 year? So, like, how many things are you balancing against?
1 or 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
What was the biggest challenge?
What?
What was the biggest challenge?
Biggest challenge? I don't know. This one kind of fell into place.
Nice.
Yeah.
You storyboard?
I don't storyboard, but I have a list of shots going in that, you know, in my limited cinematography knowledge, I can kind of understand what I was trying to write down, what I wanted to get, you know, drone, bird's eye, looking down on him, walking through. I had all that stuff listed going in.
Based off like your first conversation that you had with him, like he's going to talk about these things, and if you can illustrate it with that shot.
It's more based on, I've seen this field, what are the million different ways that I can shoot this field to give us lots of options. It's not necessarily based on the conversation we had with him, no.
Did you make the animated title?
I did make that,
Oh,
yes.
cool.
Nice.
We run that on in front of every video, and I've revamped it. It's kind of a mess. I'm not very good at After Effects, but that one, it worked out okay. What was the question?
Like, what program did you make?
After Effects, yeah.
Right, got it.
After Effects dumped some photos in it, dumped some little video. The project's a total mess, but I've got it exported, so that's all that matters.
Do you change it up for each video? Like, is it a
No, I made a new one now over like in the past month or so. I just changed out a couple of clips, but no, we run it the same every time.
What gear were you running with? What are we shooting on?
We shoot on C70s.
Perfect,
Yeah, so it's a great camera. Yeah.
When you talk about advocating for projects that have strong visuals inherently, have you ever run into an issue where you had to say no to a project, and if so, how do you handle that?
With this series, we haven't said no yet. Okay, I'll talk about the next one of these that we're doing. So it's this faculty member who's doing work on cancerous cell testing. So it's like some unique way to test cancer cells. They can capture just the cells that have cancer, and so they can get more detailed information on them. But we had kind of a similar thing where she told us a personal story that she used to climb with this friend when she was in grad school, and she and he got cancer, and it was very scary, and that kind of launched her into her career. So we had that personal story about climbing. So we're going to have her on a climbing wall, and we're going to shoot that. We're going to try to do some match cuts with the climbing rocks and something in the lab. So we found a visual element there that we can work around. The rest of her work is very small, so it's hard to show. But I think I don't know. It just depends on who's asking if you can say no or not. But I think that if you're advocating for yourself and your team from the beginning and they trust you, that's built over a long time. But I think that if they at least listen to what you have to say, you're in a good spot.
Yeah, we're looking for a story, or I'm like a personal project, because I love science communication and like stuff like this. And when you talk about the climbing wall, like thinking about diving more into who the researcher is,
Yeah.
and have you found good feedback coming from that, or they're like, why are we talking about climbing? I thought we were talking about cancer cells.
Yeah, they understand. I think they understand that. It's a matter of saying, like, I have a job to do, and I have to make this into something that's really visually exciting for our audience, so that they hear the stuff that's really important. We have to bring them in with something that they want to watch, and get to the stuff that's the healthy food, the stuff that's very important second. And I think that most people understand that, especially in a lab setting. But you always run into people who aren't interested in opening up about their personal life. But I've often found success in just saying, like for this next video we're going to do, I spent an hour or 2 hours touring their lab, and I have a grad student do it usually because they're less strapped for time. And I say, show me everything in here. Like, I want to see every process. Show me from the beginning when you get the cells in to the end. I want to see what it looks like to the camera. You can say it that way, because you just don't know. They might think something's totally boring, but to us it'd be phenomenal to shoot. So I go through it. I spent probably an hour and a half or 2 hours just touring a lab and seeing every step of the process, so I'd have an idea of what the options were. Taking cell phone pictures the whole way. Yeah.
So you obviously put a lot of time into the pre-production and meeting with your subject. My guess is that your subject probably could have talked about prosomillet for an hour and made an hour-long video about
Yeah.
prosomillet.
Yeah.
How did you communicate, when this is all done, this is going to be a 90-second, 120-second piece, to sum it up, not a 10-minute documentary about the depth of your research?
Just like that. Tell them the runtime. Set a goal. This is. Did anybody see what the runtime of this was? 2:30, something like that. So set your goal at the beginning, and make it hard. Make yourself have to cut things. I have a lot of trouble doing that, but the rough draft helped, and then cut a little more on the final draft, and we're at 2:30.
You mentioned a lot of these subjects for these videos have like 2 or 3 projects going on at once. Do you ever have trouble like picking which one to run with, or how do you handle it?
I guess it changes from project to project, but we're looking for something that the viewer can latch onto, something that catches our attention. It's like talking about taking interesting photos. It's like, oh, if I hear something that I hadn't heard before or something that I'm fascinated by, that's a good start, and we'll go down that road a little bit. But there's some people, I mean, you have to give yourself a chance. You know, some subjects it's just impossible. So I'm not saying it's possible for everything, but make your life easy, but then at the same time try to get all the information you can at the beginning.
So did you get that information about the climbing wall in a pre-production interview?
Yep. That was in an hour-long conversation about all the different...
You were filming it?
I didn't film this one because we weren't even clear on, you know, it was good. We had no idea what this person did. So I think that we're going to do I'm not sure if we're doing another one that I will film, but this was in, and I did record it, just the audio, to get an idea of what this person did, and that's kind of where that came out of. Yeah.
How much post did you have to do on the audio out in the windy field?
Well, that other session we were in, I learned a lot more about what I should have been doing. I used that Adobe AI, Adobe Podcast, whatever it is. Yeah. And I would say it doesn't have a lot of, I wouldn't say our campus has a lot of video equipment laying around, like really nice video equipment laying around. So no one had a blimp to go over the shotgun mic on campus. We had to rent one from a city that was like 45 minutes away, so I went and picked that up the day before because it's windy a lot of times in Iowa. So we made it work.
Did you
Yeah,
put
it sounded good.
track
That's one thing.
underneath?
Did I put what?
Like a light ambient track underneath, I heard a little bit.
Premium beat.
There was, like, aside from music,
Yeah. How did the interview?
there was the music, but I don't know,
I was listening for it.
I don't remember. Sorry.
Was all your audio like net sound that you captured, or was it even like stock audio that you parked, or where'd your like natural sound, like your tractor noise and stuff like that come from?
That was, it was all sound we captured, except for the footsteps in the dirt. That was like a, fully freesounds.org thing I threw on there. But I think it was all, other than that, it was all sound that we captured, yeah.
Very cool.
Actually, there was a little wind howling that, in the scary stock video about the future that I used, so.
So you had some stock footage in there as well?
Yeah, that like scary future, like the corn blowing in the wind. If I did it again, I would have loved, I had some ideas of how I could shoot that like for real in that field, like during a thunderstorm or something, but we ran out of time to do that.
I really noticed the sound design was really good. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't think it was very good, but next time. Yeah.
You got to spend, at least from like my perspective, a lot of time getting to like gather really quality B-roll. I know you planned ahead for that. How does that compare to like, I know this is a very like special niche project. How does that compare to some of the other video work you're doing for the university? Are you usually getting that time? Are you having to advocate for that time to get like the visuals that you're wanting to get, or is it more so on campus? You're just, okay, well I've got to go at like noon and I have 30 minutes kind of thing, or for some of the other projects? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I usually try to be upfront about how long I'm going to be at a shoot with the subject. Most of the stuff isn't quite as intensive as this, but then at the same time, if we're doing interiors, I'm lighting things, so that does take some time. But I think it's just being clear from the beginning, which I usually try to be in it with any shoot, of how long something's going to take. And people don't have a huge problem with that usually.
How do you find like the aha moment, like the thing that like catches you, and like what kind of questions can you ask to kind of like get that out of the subject?
Sure. I think, well, the aha moment can be a lot of things. It can be a story, it can be a visual that you see, it can be even a sound. We'll talk about Interstellar, the sound design, and sounds can bring emotions and can reference other things. I think that it's just talking to the subject and trying to keep coming back to framing it as I'm making a video for people that know nothing about anything we're talking about, and keep going back to that. What would someone who doesn't know anything about this find interesting? I think that's kind of where you need to come from. I don't know the exact questions, but tell me about how this all started, stuff like that. That's kind of how we got to the Millet story he told there. But I think it's just trying to keep reminding the person you're talking with that the people watching this know nothing about what's happening.
Explain like I'm fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
dumb it down. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah.
How common are, I think Chelsea may kind of ask that, how common are projects like this that are really feature-y heavy versus, you said you've made a million talking head videos, so.
Yeah. These are not common, these videos. So we this team that I showed at the beginning, these 3 people, we do this video series we do for the president, and then we also do like the president's holiday video. So those are kind of our 2 during the year, and then we might do 2 of these in a year, or I don't think we've done 3. We probably do 2 of these in a year, and then the holiday video. But those are kind of the biggest projects in my year, usually.
Only in higher ed or engineering teams doing holiday videos.
They have the sickest holiday videos.
It's a unique arrangement. I don't know if I have one on here. Yeah, I enter. If you voted,
Yeah, the piano.
there you go.
Yep.
You've been voting.
Do you want to talk about some of the pre-production and the idea on that, or the planning on that one?
Yeah,
Because that was all year.
Oh, about the piano one?
If we can.
Well, how much time do we have?
How
We got
long
time.
30 minutes.
We got, it's 12:17,
12 what?
12:17 right now.
We gotta be done by 30?
Mm.
Okay.
Some ideas on, just, I mean, you don't have to tell us what you're doing this year, I'd love to know, but.
Sure.
But some ideas for.
So, did anybody see that this piano video where we moved this red piano around? A few people saw it. Do I have time to show it?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, we've talked about this enough, so.
Brian's like, get me off the millet.
Yeah, the millet. I'm ready to be done talking about this video.
Holiday video anytime.
All right.
Literally, just like I found it. I literally watched this one, I was like, dang it, Ryan, you did it again.
I painted the piano. Okay, Wi-Fi. So this isn't, this video, or this song is an important song. It's called Bells of Iowa State. It's important to our campus, so that's where that comes from. Brace yourselves. Thank you. Okay. Pre-production, John, right? We meet in July. We meet in August. Team of people. I come with a few ideas, and we hash it out and decide what people like or don't like. Decide which one's our best one to present to the president, and then Brian, who we saw in there, he usually talks to the president, presents it, pitches it to her. This one was our second choice. We usually go in with a backup, depending on what she likes, but this one was kind of our second choice. And then we roll with it. We just start doing everything we need to do, everything's set into motion.
And then we'll talk about distribution, like how does your president use it and what kind of.
Just where it goes.
Yeah.
This goes is distributed with an email to all alumni, faculty, staff, students, and on social media.
I remember seeing this and immediately wanting to know, like, how just the logistics of getting that piano around. Was this all on like a day? Was this spread over a week?
This was over I think it was over 1.5 weeks.
Okay, yeah.
And we had people from what department were they from? facilities or central receiving. They had a truck, and these two people moved it around. So we didn't have to, yeah, and we had the locations all, mapped out. It's not like we were just guessing.
Well, yeah, that's already
Yeah.
planned, but just, the logistics of
Yep.
kind of getting from A to B.
They moved it, didn't have a scratch on it, so it was very impressive.
Okay, and I also need to know now, what was your first choice? This was second. Can you remember?
We might use it again, who knows?
Okay,
So,
never mind.
yeah.
Well, I'll find out.
Do you guys have any challenges with the student schedule? Because it's the same student
Oh,
week and all.
Yeah, we did, yeah. That's why it was over 1.5 weeks. Yeah, yeah, it was around like, I think this was right after Thanksgiving. So, that time is just insane, between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So, it was right after that. So, but we made it work. Yeah.
So as far as moving a piano, it gets untuned every time. So you had to probably do a track.
Yeah, that wasn't, there was no real audio in that. It was the recorded track. So she arranged that. That's her own special arrangement of that historic song, Iowa State song. So that was kind of cool. But we were there for the recording, and we made some suggestions and changes during the recording, and we got a nice clean recording to use. We experimented with making the sound like it was actually in the space. I didn't really like it. So.
On the drone shot at the end, did you do something to make that piano pop? I mean, it's red.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I did. I boosted the red a little bit. Yeah, the color didn't turn out quite as deep as I'd hoped in the real painting, but we kind of edited in post. So. Yeah. Yeah.
Real snow or fake snow?
Fake snow.
I was just wondering if you used After Effects for the handwriting, the signatures.
Those were given to me. I didn't do those. Those are done a long time ago for some other project, and I just drop them in. They have an alpha channel on, just drop them right in. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you shooting like in log and then color grading, and then are you doing that in Premiere?
Yes, but maybe not for too much longer after these presentations. Time is limited for Premiere, but I use LUTs. Color grading is definitely a weak part of my skill set, so it was nice to be in program before this.
it's just the three of you in the pitching session to decide on the idea?
There's 2 other people that are kind of tied to the president that are also in that.
And they come with ideas?
Well, yeah, that's in just the conversation, and then one person goes forward to pitch. So yeah, and it's usually me bringing the ideas, and then they're weighing in. There's a couple ideas from other people, but I plan to bring 3 good ones this year. So work from there. Anything else?
That girl play this song. Did you record her playing the entire track to choose then when you wanted to cut, or did you know this location we're gonna go from this?
I had a rough idea of where we would want to cut. We wanted to cut on certain beats, and certain locations demanded a couple shots, or at least seen them a couple times. She actually played it, when we were filming, and she played it over 90 times, I want to say, or something like that. She played the whole song, or parts of the song. It's kind of a lot of work on her part, but students love to do this kind of stuff. So, anything else? I'll go vote. Please give me 7 stars. Appreciate it. Thank you.